better late than never. Let's do it live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coming of Shadows, the Babylon 5 retrospective. This week on the show, we are talking about episode 16 in the Shadows of Zahadum, which is arguably maybe the most important episode of the season. I can't say for sure because I haven't seen the other ones, but there's some pretty big reveals in this one. But before we get into that, let me welcome my co-host, the man who is my Morden, who is Morden to my Veer. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Sorry, we had a little bit of audio issues with some of the panelists at the beginning. We had to sort them out. We're going to make sure we do a good show. So, we had to sort that out. But we're getting going now. So who do we have in the chat? I says we got 6-7 people so far. Looks like I'm looking at Umbras is in here. Good to see you. Dave is in the chat. Awesome. Who else? Is that it? That's it. The other guys us and the other guys are all going to be on the panel. All right. Do we have any administration things to do? Cam, anything we need to go over?
Well, just for our viewers of this show only, we mentioned on Top Lofty Lounge, but you had hit the massive number of followers, subscribers of 630. So hooray!
Hooray! Yeah, right on. Of course, yes. There it is, 630. Woohoo! Yay! Oh, PB just jumped in the chat. Good to see you, PB. Good to see you. Yeah, and I'll remind everybody, our other show on Sunday nights, there is movie nights coming up in a couple weeks, and I put on the Discord, vote for the next movie. So it's between Flash Gordon and what's the other one? The Star Wars original, which is it escapes me. The name of it escapes me. Battle Beyond the Stars, of course. There we go. Yeah. All right. So go vote for that, and whichever one gets the most votes will be the one that we do next. We'll probably do the other one right after that. But okay, that's fine. It's fun. It's fun to vote. All right. Shall we bring in let's bring in Jason's not here today. Let's bring in our regular guest panelist. It's Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
I'm here. Sorry.
All right. And let's bring in our two guest panelists. It's Madman and Nathan. We have two guest panelists today. All right, right on. And that's
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah. That's because Snob didn't keep proper records, and basically promised 2 different people to be on the show. So what the heck? We'll just go with it.
We'll do it live.
Crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, but are you ready to explain the greatest nightmare of our age?
Yes.
We will try.
We'll try to do that.
And we're going to try very hard also to make sure everyone gets to give their opinion on this. So we'll go around a little bit and give everyone their time.
They're due. Yes.
I fully expect
all
to
right.
get muted.
That's right. Except you, Jeff.
It's always my fault.
Okay.
Okay. So before we get going, we have to do the trivia real quick. We'll do the trivia from last week. Let me just expand this up. Put this on. Here we go. Trivia questions from last week were, of course, what is the most important rule of survival on Babylon 5? How many humans were killed during the Earth Minbari War? What is the name of the kid in the Psy-Core advertisement? You might not get that one. That was a little hard. How many planets is Minbar from their own sun? And how did Jakar's father die? And, of course, the answers right below there. The most important rule of survival on Babylon 5 is, of course, expect the unexpected, according to our news friends. And about 250,000 humans were killed in the Earth Minbari War. And Johnny is the name of the kid in the Psy-Core advertisement. The most boring, obvious name it would be Little Johnny.
Little Johnny.
And like we are the third rock from the sun, Minbar is the seventh rock from the sun. And Jakar's father died from hanging.
I would caveat that it was like a crucifixion type of hanging.
Yeah, 3-day hanging.
Yeah.
That is pretty nasty.
Not an instant death by any means.
Doom.
And we have Snugs have jumped in the chat. Welcome.
Snugs.
Good to see you. All right. Shall we get going? Cam, you want to do your quick summary, and I'll do a little bit of longer one just to remind the viewers, and then we'll get on to it. Big
Certainly.
episode.
Okay, this is episode 16 of season 2, episode 38 overall, In the Shadow of Zahadum, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Original air date May 10th, 1995, and episode 217 in production order. Sheridan discovers a connection between his late wife and the mysterious Mr. Morden, and makes enemies of everyone around him when he has Morden detained. Elsewhere, the Night Watch is formed on the station.
All right, right on. And a little bit longer, our little longer summary. So first, the episode starts off. We've got some Narm refugees coming in. We've got Zach and Garibaldi talking about how Zach saying about how they're swamped with refugees. That's giving us a little bit of hint of what's going on and how the war's going. We also cut to Veer meeting Morden. Veer obviously does not like Morden. Morden is expecting Londo, but Londo got called away to back to the home planet to consult. Veer does not like Morden at all. Very obvious. We might have an audio clip to play later. In the end, Morden gives info some info on a data crystal to Veer to give to Londo. And then we have before the opening, we have Garibaldi and Sheridan talking in his office. Garibaldi is asking about the refugee policy. Can we change it? Sheridan makes some small changes to make things easier. They happen to go over some stuff on the screen, and Sheridan's looking at some of the people who were on the Icarus, and Garibaldi says, "Hey, I know that guy. I've seen him around the station." And that is, of course, our friend Morden. And Sheridan says, "Find Morden. Find him. I want to talk to him." And that's the opening crawl of the episode.
Or the freight train.
Trains in the background. All right. So I see about sort of three threads going through the episode. We've got the Narn refugees thread. We've got within that, Ivanova orders the doctor. The doctor's hasn't been awake. He's been awake for 36 hours. She goes in, finds him, orders him to get some sleep and some food. After that, when they're eating food after his 6 hours of sleep, they're talking about the doc is giving us a little bit. We're seeing a little bit about his character, how he sees his loss of patience. They're basically like nightmares, kind of like what soldiers get when they kill people. It seems he seems to think of it that way, which is a little unusual, I think. He's very hurt. He's taking hard the loss of any non-refugees, and he does mention that he belongs to a religion which is a foundationalist, which was formed about 100 years ago. So that's somewhat interesting. And we learned that about the Doctor. One of the other threads we've got McAfee from the Ministry of Peace shows up for a conference. He wants to talk to certain people. He has a little bit of a meeting. He invites Talia and Zach to go there. Of the main characters, they go in, and he talks to about forming something called the Night Watch, and how they are there to help people. Not just stop illegal things, sort of things, but anything that could be bad in action, but also word or thought,
for your own protection,
which is a little bit concerning to me. But anyway, we'll talk about that. And at the end of the episode, we see Zach wearing an armband, which indicates he's a member of the Night's Watch. So we don't see him wearing it throughout the episode, but at the very end, he's got it on. All right, and now for the main part of the episode, we've got Sheridan, as I said, tells Garibaldi to find Morden. Morden is stopped while attempting to board a ship to go off and do whatever he's going to do. He's taken and detained, and Sheridan himself interrogates him. And we find that he's been interrogated for about 10 hours at this point. He has excuses for why he was not killed on the Icarus. He says that he's got no memory of it. He thinks someone found him on the way back. He had no memory, couldn't remember his name. Took him months. Sheridan does not buy it, and he's very determined to get the information out of Morden. He thinks he's lying, and even goes so far as to say, you'll stay in here if it takes a week, a month, a year, 500 years. So, Garibaldi, at a break in the interrogation, Garibaldi says, "Hey, you can't be just arresting people and holding them. If you don't, what you're doing is wrong." Sheridan basically somewhat kind of sideways threatens Garibaldi and says, "Hey, I'll do what I want." And Garibaldi says, "No, I'm not going to do this. If you're doing this, it's my responsibility." And he resigns. Then we have a string of people coming and asking about Morden's release. Veer comes and asks for Morden's release and says that he's under diplomatic immunity. He's, we've got dealings with him. This makes Sheridan very suspicious. And then Ivanova confronts him in a hallway and says, "Hey, you can't be doing this. I understand why you're doing it, but it's wrong, and my job to tell you it's wrong." Then Sheridan attempts to get Talia to read Morden. Of course, she refuses because that's not legal. Not allowed to do that. So he arranges Talia to go by him in the hallway, and she freaks out, almost collapses. They have to take her to med bay. She says what she describes what she saw from Morden, and of course, Sheridan shows up and says, "Hey, sorry, I did that to you," and she slaps him in the face. After that, we have Kosh and Delin come to meet Sheridan and tell him, "You must release Morden, otherwise." You got to do it. And he's like, "What? Everybody's telling me this." He calls, she says, "Do you want to know what's going on?" And he says, "Yes." "Okay, but you won't be able to sleep after this. And it is the greatest nightmare of our time." I'm going to skip over what they talk about because we're going to talk about that first. So the big reveal, this is near the end of the episode, big reveal of what is going on. And then, of course, Sheridan releases Morden. Sheridan gives Garibaldi his job back and somewhat apologizes and said that it'll never happen again. And we, of course, as I mentioned, we see Zach with the Night Watch band, At the end of the episode, Sheridan talks to Kosh and says, "I don't want to, do these things anymore where I'm sort of learning about myself. I want to learn how to fight." And Kosh agrees to teach him, and that's the end of the episode. Cam,
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
over to you.
Okay, so we're gonna, as Snob said, we're gonna talk about this the big reveal here. So it was kind of surprising watching this again, where Kosh and Delenn show up together, which any appearance by Kosh is a big deal, but both of them seeming to have a unified front here, and so what they're doing here is really spilling a major bit of what we know. We've mentioned before in other episodes where you see these little strings of things, and then suddenly they come together into a big nexus of explanation. And this is one of those episodes. So I'll just mention very briefly, and then we can turn to the panel about discussing the details of it. But in outline form, basically, Delenn and Kosh reveal what about the shadows, who they are, and where they come from, as well as the nature of Lorlons, and a big info dump about the nature of the known universe, or at least the galaxy, and its history going back into the far flung past. So Madman, why don't we start with you? You want to hit a few details there about why don't you talk about what Delenn says about the first ones and the shadows and the Vorlon?
Ooh, you got me on there. Hang on, I have it right. I have it written down. Hold on 1 minute here. Let me just bring it up. But it's interesting how they put this together. And yes, here we go. We have no name for them. The shadows were old even when the ancients were young. They battled each other across 1,000,000 years. The last great war against the shadows were 10,000 years ago. It was the last time the ancients walked among us, but the shadows were only defeated, not destroyed. 1,000 years ago, the shadows returned to the places of power, rebuilt them, and began to stretch forth their hand. But before they could strike, they were defeated by alliance of worlds, including the Minbari and a few remaining first ones who haven't yet passed beyond the veil. When it was over, the first ones left, all but one. And should I reveal who the one was?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it's Kosh. We find out that Kosh, the Volons, are the first ones, one of the first ones out there. That basically why it was mentioned that basically if he left his encounter suit, everyone would recognize him. Now,
Yeah,
what does that mean? What does that mean? We don't know as of yet what's inside that encounter suit. But we assume
Right.
that's going to be important down the line.
That was an especially good line where it was that you said he'd be recognized, and they said by who, and he says everyone.
Yeah. So the countersuit doesn't do anything for him except just keep him hidden, I guess, right?
Yes, and now going back to, remember, the original Doctor in the pilot saw him, in his encounter suit, and was like, I mean, he was sworn to secrecy and everything, but he was freaked out by it for good reason.
He was recalled,
and so was Leader.
Earth. That's how they explained his not being in the series.
Right.
They pulled him. It was such a big reveal to him that Earth Dome and then President wanted to
Okay, but on that point, but I'm assuming that, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the last time the ancients were out was 1,000 years ago, so Earth was just, that would be 1,200. Earth was not, so he wouldn't recognize them and go, "Oh yeah, that's an ancient," because we weren't starfaring.
I don't know that the Vorlons are the ancients. I think the ancients.
They're the first one. No, they're the first one. They were one of the first.
They're right, but they're not the oldest. The oldest ones. No. They were part of the coalition that fought against the shadows.
But my point is that he would not have recognized them. Like he said, everyone will recognize them, but I don't think that includes includes humans, because we weren't there 1,000 years ago.
Okay,
there's a few logic tricks in that. The first one is that I forgot the doctor's name from the pilot, but the thing is, yes, who swore to secrecy, and he was removed to Earth. So was he sworn to secrecy by EarthGov, or was he sworn to secrecy somehow by the Vorlons, or brainwashed, tricked, or whatever? That's something they don't quite explain. The other thing is that note in with the description that even when the first ones were running around, the shadows already were around, which is
Yes.
a minor point that uh, perhaps important, perhaps not later on, but it's something that you that people do need to be aware of how Delenn phrased it, because, well, you know how Delenn and Kosh are about wording.
Yeah, it's so it is this gets to be into a lot of stuff that's not been revealed yet. There is more information that kind of comes of it, but what we do know is that so what's being revealed is the Vorlons aren't just an advanced race, similar to the other ones. They go
Really
far
advanced.
beyond that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then we also know that the shadows are also of the same level, let's say, as the Vorlons, and they are an ancient enemy of basically everyone. Is kind of what Delenn said, because again, all of these others, teamed up to fight them, 10,000 years ago, and still weren't able to defeat them.
They
Well,
defeated them.
They
They weren't able to
defeated but not
Defeat, but not
destroyed.
destroy them.
destroy
Right,
them.
right.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't able to get rid of them. And then, Delenn mentions that the others, the other first ones, basically left between 10,000 and 1,000 years ago, and then when they came back 1,000 years ago,
Yeah.
right? They came back 1,000 years ago, and then started trouble again. Jeff, do you want, or well, let's.
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
to talk about the details of what
So
Delenn
the way
said with that?
so the way it was explained, that I understand it, and I only watched it 3 times. I don't think it was the first one I watched 3 times. And the way that Delenn, because it's so packed full of information, there was the ancients, the original ones, and then there were like the old ones, which the Vorlons and other races that we're not privy to at this time. Um, I don't know if we'll ever will be, but that the Vorlons were part of, and the old ones were the ones that fought 1,000 years ago against it. And again, they pushed it back, and the shadows retreated and went into slumber, if you will. On Zahadum, they kind of retreated into the very creepy looking cave. But the humans on the Icarus went out and awoke them.
Well, let's make a note there. So in this info dump, what they do is Kosh says, basically, I'll show you, or something like that, and he somehow telepathically shows Sheridan what happened, or a scene.
Yeah, they
basically.
specifically said that he recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
He recorded, so Kosh knew what happened on the Icarus the whole time.
Right.
So
they show the
was monitoring them.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
they
before
show the
let me
ship.
interrupt. Let me interrupt for one moment. You're missing out on one thing: the flashback before the showing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now, if you remember, Delenn had said, for centuries the Volon stood alone, the last remaining guardians. Then last year, and this is the season finale, then last year, I sent Kosh a message.
Right.
Did you see, Delenn, did you see Ambassador Kosh? Lanier, I did. Delenn, did you relay my question precisely, word for word? Lanier, I did. Delenn, his reaction. Lanier, just one word.
Yes.
He said yes.
Yeah.
Sheridan,
And
if yes was the answer to the if yes was the answer, what was the questions? Delenn, has the shadows returned to Zahadum?
Right. Yeah, I have it written down too. I was getting there, but
sorry.
No, I was getting to the flashback scene with that. And it was interesting how they framed that too, because it was kind of, they made the flashback like that, black and white. So it was
Yeah, just
to signify. I don't know if it to signify something unique or important about it, maybe. Because we did see and that was season 1 when we saw, or season 2
finale. That was
Yeah,
the
the end of
finale.
season 1.
Season 1. And so the premise is that the Vorlons were basically one of the last remaining of the older races that are still here. All the other ones had passed through the veil,
Right.
and which kind of again solidified my analogy to the with Stargate, with the ascended beings, how the very much in line with that. That's, to me, would be passing through the veil, would be ascending beyond, kind of like what Talia's friend did. I would guess.
They've gone on to Valinor.
Ironheart.
Well,
No, not
okay.
to Valinor, to the great beyond, or whatever it is, when the what was it in Stargate, when they all ascend to a higher evolved form.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Mike,
And that, go ahead.
I was just saying, Nathan, you haven't had a bit. Do you want to comment on that whole section a little bit and add in maybe something we've missed?
Well, the things for the descriptions for when they're talking about the past, the Minbari are well aware, should be aware of their own personal history, because out of the besides the Vorlons, out of the main races that are floating around in Babylon 5, they're the ones that have been that we've been revealed to so far. They're the ones that have been space traveling the longest. So we're hoping they didn't get destroyed in previous war and had to rebuild civilization. That because they're around enough to not just have their stories as the stories of what happened as folklore, but more along the idea that it's actual fact, that it's recorded in their history, not in their mythology.
Right. Yeah, and that's an excellent point. The Minbari are kind of like a bridge between these two. They're like the oldest of the young races, it seems. In that, like you said, they actually know this. The Great Council and everything goes back to that time. Which and keen observers will note that this is that 1,000 years that's been mentioned several times in the show in regards to the Minbari.
And then
Remember,
a
previous episode says the Great Council never tells the whole truth.
True. Yeah, your average Minbari is probably not aware of these things, of course.
So, being a first-time watcher, I'm going to assume that all the other races in the galaxy are, were not spacefaring 1,000 years ago then, because they were not involved in the battle and they don't really know anything about it, except, of course, for the Narn, which seem to have, this religious connotations. They know of it. We haven't seen anyone else, any other race, talking about it that way.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what Nathan was saying, though, or that for the Minbari, it's their history, but for the Narn, it's their mythology almost.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? It's like it's not quite history.
And they're somewhat aware of it from the start, because way back in season 1, there's the whole thing about that star system Sigma 957, the one where Sinclair's asteroid mining girlfriend almost got killed in. And the thing was that there he was, and I forgot his name, Ambassador, the Narn ambassador, Jakar, thank you. Yeah, he's aware of strange goings on over there, and besides stuff in their books, they've either personally experienced it and had their ships destroyed, or that, and they haven't been around. Well, I know from other sources they haven't been around nearly as long as the Centauri, because it's kind of like evolution.
Who the Narn?
Evolution wise, it's not evolution historically. Earthlings are the newest ones. Then before that are the Narn. Before that are the Centauri, and then before that are the Minbari. In terms of which ones got into space first, and started putzing around with everybody else in the everyone else in the galaxy or the neighborhood.
Well, if we're and we also know a little something about the Vree apparently because they are the Greys who have visited Earth and
Yes.
kidnapped people.
Yeah,
Okay,
but they're-
Nathan, if I can mention this, your order is a little wrong.
Oh,
Unfortunately, we can't discuss it yet till season
Okay,
three.
so I as one of the virgins, me and Jeff,
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with Nathan what he said so far, based on what I've seen in the show.
Mhm.
I know I have no other knowledge. Like, I would agree with what he just said with
Mhm.
the ages of the races.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's
it
what it
wasn't.
seems like to me.
Now-
it's the ages, but it's spacefaring is something different.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They become of age. They're spacefaring, and the Narn only probably got so far ahead because the Centauri came and controlled them for that amount of time.
Yeah, because there've
Right.
been hints in season 1 and early season 2 of it. That's why
Ye-
like I said, there's been a lot of stuff in between. I always say there's stuff that's in between the cracks. The change in the cushions and stuff like that that's been added in these episodes. I've always said this: pay attention to everything that is said because there's stuff there that's going to be important later down the
Yeah,
line.
and a few notes on that is so we're talking about with Jakar. When he was talking to Catherine as he saved her, essentially, is that for whatever reason, they've discovered that there is this higher order of entities out there. That he described them, as like us being ants to them, right? And then on the Centauri side, for example, Londo was aware of the technomages. So it might be that there is these other various ancient or old factions, let's say, not ancient, that they've encountered in some form or fashion in their time. So it's there's not a uniform knowledge of things, which brings us back to the question of why everyone would recognize Kosh, according to Kosh.
Yeah. So
And then,
so I want to.
Well, that was
one
deliberate.
last thing I wanted to point out, if I could, as far as the role of the technomages is, since we're not really going to cover that, the role of the technomages is more covered in the sequel show Crusade, and then as I said, a lot of my extra knowledge comes from as people might say, apocrypha, because it comes from the role-playing game this one company had been publishing for like 8 years, worth 8 years worth of supplements, and they have an entire supplement that's just dedicated to the technomages and how to play it. It's a D20 game, how to play a technomage and what you get out of it and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, and then there's also some novels and things as well where they've kind of filled in, but maybe we'll cover that at some point. But
And
So
some
the-
of them are written by Straczynski himself. So how apocryphal they are? Hey, it's like Star Trek,
sure.
There's two different. So a couple of comments, right? Like that the being that treats us like ants. It's not clear to me from what I've seen that is the necessarily. It might be necessarily the old ones or the ancient ones that have moved on. It's not clear to me that those are the same per se.
And what does
and
I think
also I would say that it's not clear to me as well. I think someone mentioned in the chat that the ones that have moved on, we don't know if they've gone to a higher plane of existence or they just left the galaxy and went somewhere else.
Well, they said cross the veil.
So that could be
that's
the
way-
veil
that-
between
that-
galaxies. Like
right.
It could be.
It could be metaphorical. It
Yeah.
could be
literal, yeah.
literal.
Yeah,
Could
so
be spiritual.
I just wanted to throw that in there from my perspective, not knowing anything else.
Now-
I definitely think there's three different tiers of groups. There's the ancients, the oldest ones that were around, 10,000 plus years ago, millennium.
Well, millions of years.
It'd be millions of years ago, yeah. And then there's the second tier, which is what the Vorlons are part of, that are the old ones.
Okay,
And
which are the
then-
shadows a part of?
Which
Which are they a part of those The old ancient
That's
ones
a
would
good.
be-
I don't think that was. I don't think that's become apparent yet. They may be just as old as the ancients.
Well, Delenn did say that this
She did say
conflict that was driven by the shadows has gone on for millions of years.
That's true. Okay.
And I mean, it seemed to me in her speech that she said that they were here first.
So
that
they were one
are
of the ancient
oldest.
races too. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, how's it go? When the Vorlons rose and this and that, the shadows were already there. So
Right.
what level of either technological or physical evolution or spiritual they'd gotten to that point in time has not been revealed to us yet.
Right. So
Right.
just one thing I want to note here, and anyone could comment on it, is so what's so interesting about this is, other than the direct nightmare that Delenn is talking about, she's just revealed basically the history of the universe, right? That
In a way, yeah.
this is not some
at least
exactly
this galaxy.
it's
Much
not
of it
just
anyway.
some recent thing. It's like, well, I hesitate to make a comparison, but there's a gaping maw of history that shared in all humans are ignorant of, and just imagine that kind of feeling. It's like, oh yeah, I thought the world was like this, but it's not, and again, very analogous to what Jakar said about us being ants.
If you look at our ancient mythology or even the ancient religions, there's you could draw some things from that too. The whole angels
True.
versus the demons and stuff like that from biblical history.
Right, but I mean, to the best of our knowledge, our history in back to the Bronze Age is what, 6,000-7,000 years kind of thing.
Right.
Before that, we have no real records of anything.
Probably
So
10 to 12,000 years would be the farthest you could go back in human history.
Sure. Yeah, you're Stone Age at
And
that
even
point,
then,
right?
yeah, even then,
12,000 years? No, 12,000 years isn't Stone Age.
Yes, it is.
Now,
in terms of civilization, there's there's archaeology, which is kind of like we're guessing what they were up to, and then there's history, and history starts with the history in terms of what humans can describe. For the most part, is when we could start deciphering artifacts of communication, like for example the expression from the cave walls in France and things like that. But before that, sure, we can guess what they were up to, but we don't really know if there was anything else going on. And besides, hunt, kill, feed the kids, stuff
right,
like that.
and we know that humanity goes back longer than that. But the point is that in regards to this is that 10,000 years, yeah, they know things that were going on. Like, she mentioned 10,000 years specifically, but that it's way more than that behind it. It's not like, oh, there weren't spacefaring races before 10,000 years ago. It's like, no, that there was a galaxy-wide war going on between entities millions of years ago.
Yeah, 4 million years even.
I mean, when the Narn, when this battle happened, 1,000 years ago, what were we doing? It was we were just starting to explore
Vikings.
the world. Vikings were around. Yeah,
note that the Minbari was spacefaring at this point.
Right.
If you remember what Delenn said, it says 1,000 years the shadows returned to the places the powers rebuilt them and stretched the hand. But before they could strike, they were defeated by an alliance of worlds, including the Minbari and a few remaining first ones. So at this point, we're knowing that the Minbari was spacefaring at this point 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And good question is, well, who are those other alliance members, if not the first ones, that are on the level of the Minbari, maybe. But I guess my point is, it's like, oh yeah, they're talking about 1,000 years ago. It's like, oh, they mentioned this, and it's like, oh wait, there was something 10,000 years ago. Oh yeah, by the way, there was something millions of years ago. It's just kind of like this, like I said, this opening maw behind you.
Which Straczynski did use symbolization for, with where the shadows are hiding on Zahadum. I mean, if you look, it looks, and he actually said so much as such that he deliberately made that look like a mouth. like a giant maw that they were hiding back under, just waiting to awake from their slumber.
Well, Jeff, you mentioned Zahadum specifically. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the mentions of that? With the discussion with Kosh and Delenn and Sheridan, or the flashback?
Well, I mean, where do we want to go with this?
I shouldn't say flashback. I meant the thing where they were showing the Icarus.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, it was obviously it was CGI created, and JMS was. I watched the whole episode with the commentary too, a couple of times, and but he said that he wanted to show these insectoid like creatures with six sets of eyes, or with 3 eyes on each side, and kind of have this menacing look. The story that Morden told to Sheridan doesn't necessarily coincide with the story that we see, probably because Morden's lying a little bit.
Well, let's go into that a little bit, because those two storylines do come together here.
Right.
So, Snob, do you want to talk about that more? Because I know you skipped the detail of Morden, what Morden's telling Sheridan, basically.
Yeah.
And then how it, collides with what Sheridan is then shown.
No, I'm happy to let our guests
okay.
talk more. If no one wants to talk about it, I will. But I want you guys to talk about it.
Man, why don't we go back to you for a minute?
Okay,
if you want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead. Repeat what you just said.
So basically, this, when Sheridan takes Morden into custody, we don't have to talk about the Sheridan stuff, but right now, basically, the story that Morden is conveying to Sheridan about the Icarus.
Yeah, basically, Morden had said that when the Icarus exploded, he was outside doing some work, and he was found. He says he was found unconscious by a passing transport and taken to the Vega colony at that point. And he explains that he couldn't even remember who he was, for a long period of time, and when he began to remember, then he said he sent a notification to Earth Dome that he was still alive. Now, he claims maybe Earth Dome didn't get the acknowledgement that I was still alive, because there was nothing in anything that was registered through Earth Force or Earth Dome that Mr. Morden was alive.
Right, which Garibaldi kind of lent some credence to. He's like, yeah, we don't necessarily get every,
they don't necessarily get every message, but
death certificate that comes through Earth Dome. Yeah,
yeah, unless they get arrested or something.
Right.
The big thing, though, I was going to mention in that is that that Morden was with an IPX expedition, though. And IPX has got their mitts in everything. As we found out last season, when we had the Doc's mentor trying to get away with artifacts and trying to sell them or discover them to either regain glory or regain cash. Which from the way they've made it sound, IPX is kind of like government backed. So depending on
well, they sponsored the last episode, 36 hours, and that they weren't one of the sponsors.
Pardon?
Yes, you're right. Of the last episode, yep. The television program.
And for those of you a little bit behind, IPX is Interplanetary Expeditions.
Right.
And they're the way I describe them is we're the interplanetary pirates. because they're not going for they're not really going for altruistic scientific reasons. Sure, there's science in there, but the first thing that they're looking for is for profits and technological advancements primarily. So
right.
So if you find a nice, friendly people, oh, that's nice. Pat them on the head and move on. so the thing is that I would think, though it's not said, that if his story was true, then IPX and EarthGov would have picked him up and picked his brain. The
Now Sheridan is of course keened in on this because of his wife also being on the ship along with Morden,
Yeah.
and his thought process being that, well, if he's alive, maybe she's still alive,
mhm.
Yeah.
and maybe she is still alive. We don't know at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's
here's the big question. Here's the big question. I'm sorry to interrupt. Now, Nathan had said something very important. Why didn't IPX Earth Dome pick him up? Here's the other question. If the Icarus exploded and they didn't get off a distress signal and they lost contact with IPX, wouldn't IPX send a second group in or contact Earth Dome to send a expedition to Zahadum to find out what happened?
Hmm.
If you notice, that's been brushed off.
Well,
Yeah.
so the implication I got with Morden's story was that it was destroyed in transit, and clearly we know that the ship made it to Zahadum.
Right.
And so that's where, to me, there's clearly his story does not correlate with the record that Kosh has.
Right. And
they were on the planet.
Yeah, and that's exactly. Let's go back to that now, because that's why I wanted to talk about what Morden said, and because now we're back to the end here, where Kosh is showing him a direct record, where they basically awakened or somehow encountered the shadows, right? The Icarus crew did, and Delenn. Madman, do you have the quote there about what Delenn says about serving or
Give me
I
a
have
minute
it.
on that.
Okay.
I have it, but give me a minute.
Okay, you could find it. Basically, Delenn, in this discussion, that they found the shadows, and they are either. She says something about they either serve or they're killed.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's kind of like join us or die.
right
Is your choice.
And now, Madman, let me know if you get it.
Yeah.
But then I'd like to then bounce back to the encounter with Talia and Morden, because these things all kind of come together.
That opens up some other things. Yeah, I was just thinking, at what point are we going to get to Talia and the fact that people with her kind of abilities.
Mm-hmm. So, Jeff, why don't you talk about that? Why don't you just describe that situation how she encounters him?
So when Sheridan decides to move Morden from one holding area to a different one, and he tries to get Talia to investigate him. That's why he says, okay, fine. So he arranges for them to cross paths in the hallway while they're moving him, and while Talia is heading back to her quarters or whatever. And she encounters him, feels the cold. She says cold, very cold and dark. She sees the shadow, and she sees the creatures that are with Morden. The two that later on we could see later on, but she actually can feel them. So it's revealed that people with the psychic abilities can very much detect and see these shadows.
Right. Now, so and they did this it was a cool scene because they're just kind of strolling along, and you see Talia, and then you're seeing from her perspective, basically.
Right.
And what they do with the lighting is basically it blacks out Morden's face.
It's very dark.
Like it did in season 1.
Right. And yeah, and then she also gets a flash of other entities with him.
The little and these are the same. These are the shadowy. They're kind of just a black shadowy type, translucent black version of the creatures that we see in Sheridan's. In what Kosh is showing Sheridan, But so clearly we know Kosh could see them too.
Well,
We saw that previously.
Now, if I can interrupt, I don't have the exact scripting, but this is where the point we go. Sheridan is desperate hopes that his wife Anna is still alive. Delenn urges for Morden to be released because if he pushes the man for information, he will break. Right now, their only advantage is the shadows don't realize how much they know. Last time they moved too quickly, so this time the shadows are moving slowly, carefully. The light needs time to prepare their forces. She also informs him that Morden is never alone.
Right. And that's reinforced again by this scene with her, and then of course she comes in and I think he's in medbay or something like that, and she slaps Sheridan for what he did.
I wanted to point out one funny point of production.
Probably going to say the same thing that I'm about to mention, which is,
and that is how's it go in that small corridor? How could you fit in two shadow creatures and the Earth crew and Mr. Morden and Talia all in the same spot at the same all in the same hall at the same time?
JMS actually explains that in the thing. He says these are spider-like creatures, and they can move very quickly like spiders, and so they can quickly move and avoid any other creatures. That's how he explains it.
I assume that they were somehow not quite 100% in our physical realm, or like
somehow. But that's what he chalked it up to. Yeah, he chalked it up to them being spider-like, and that as we see later on when Morden is in the other room, and I want to call him Jeff because that's what he kept calling him, but Zach. Yeah. His name is Jeff, though. The actor's name is Jeff because he kept on calling him Jeff. But Zach, he has Zach adjust the cameras
of the
right to detect the infrared and ultraviolet and different spectrum, and
predator mode
for a brief moment. He's like he saw him. Now I don't believe that Zach saw them. Only Sheridan did.
Yeah, because Zach said
because Zach was on the controls and not.
He says, "What'd you see? What'd you see?"
Right. He's like shadows, nothing shadows, which I think is him also realizing that he needs to keep this secret. And
right, and so Madman talked about what the script said there, and this is the reason that Delenn gave is why they came to Sheridan to urge him to do that. It's basically they're saying if you persist in this, you're going to force some sort of confrontation.
Right.
Now, honestly, it didn't make a ton of sense to me because on one hand, she said that previously they were rushed, and that's why they were able to be defeated. And in this case, she's saying she doesn't want them to be rushed, but she also did mention that, they don't have their ducks in a row either. Basically their side is behind here and they're relying only on secrecy to try and get their forces assembled.
Right.
There's one thing that I do want to point out, and that is Babylon 5 being the type of show that it is. How do you know that Akash is telling the truth?
We don't.
We the audience know because we are omniscient, being able to see all the viewpoints that are mostly omniscient. We see all the viewpoints that are being presented to us. But when you keep pointing out the part about the story and color that Kosh presents, we're not. That sounds likely. It certainly serves Delenn's interest and Kosh's, but I'm just going to leave that in there for you all to wonder about it because they are all mysterious. How do you know that how do you know that's what really happened?
Well, there also, if you go back to the introduction of Mr. Morden when he first came to Babylon 5, and he went around to that point. If you remember what was going on separately with the Centauri, and basically you had that psychic who was there who saw the destruction of Babylon 5.
Right.
And she says it is going to happen. Now, what causes that Babylon 5 to detonate? That is the question going forward to that point. Most people, when they watch the show, they don't realize to that point when we get to this point here, about the shadows.
Right.
Was the mistake made? Did Sheridan make the mistake eventually to that point, causing the shadows to attack, or was there something else that happens to that point, and then we don't
Right,
know
but
yet?
that's not clear. But That's not a clear tie to to the veracity of the Vorlon story. That's what I'm saying. Yes, the shadows show up. Yes, they're powerful. But but I'm saying that they could be at cross purposes and just throwing us around.
Well,
Um,
remember this point. From that point, the introduction on that, we're dealing with what the trap door for JMS. Remember this whole
mhm.
storyline shouldn't even exist originally. Because of the changes in characters on there. There was supposed to be something else going on at this point on there. As
Right.
But
far
but
and
I don't
but it was
worry.
remember
kind of
I
the
don't worry
Centauri
about that
part.
because
Yeah,
I don't worry about the trapdoors because if I'm unless I'm a wait a minute, that was my nickname in high school. Unless I'm a Gonzo fanatic, I'm not going to know that.
well,
Being an avid TV watcher or whatever,
mhm.
but I'm not going to know about trapdoors and this and that, especially not back in the days before the internet. I
well,
mean, I'd have to go and pick up that stupid Babylon 5 magazine in order to know that.
right. Straczynski did he didn't specifically address what happened with Sinclair, um,
Yeah.
but in the commentary, but he did say that he wanted to move into a different direction and that there was a striking. He wanted to make sure that there was a striking difference, whereas Sinclair was accomplished and had been on the line and had come into his own right as a leader and this and that and the other, and was very sure of himself, but always serious. Never. He wanted when he introduced Bruce Boxletter into that role now as the captain. He actually wanted him to come in and be the jarhead and be the kind of but happy-go-lucky gung-ho, this, and then actually be able to move him through the arc of coming into being just going from a jarhead to being a leader. That's the way he described it, literally being starting off as a jarhead and becoming a great leader. And of course, he revealed something in the thing that doesn't that we don't know about yet. Which
Yeah,
I won't.
don't watch the commentary if you don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of spoilers where he talks about it, some things that are in the future, but so again, I don't know if that's just his way of kind of skirting the issue that they had with the actor that played Sinclair, or maybe that is something that he really had thought about for season 2, about moving in a different direction because they needed that flow to go differently.
Yeah, because what we know already now today, as far as the path of season 2 is the Centauri part of it is not supposed to even appear in the original plot line, to the point that it was supposed to be later on. The Mr. Morden, all that was supposed to be much later on. It was, in other words, this plot line was moved forward into this position right now on that to
Mhm.
replace whatever was here
Right.
originally.
This may have been something that was supposed to happen in, say, season 4 or 5,
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the takeaway that I have from all this, and I'd like you to each comment on it if I could, is so now we've seen all these different machinations. Like you said, the war with the Centauri and the Nard, and Jakar and all his agitation of the early season 1, and the mystery with the Vorlons and everything. And now through this episode, it's basically been slapped down on the table in front of you and said, this is a war between good and evil that's been going on for millions of years, and now you're part of it.
Mhm.
So let's go around the table. So let's start with Nathan. So did that come across to you, or did you see it differently, or
Yes, and what I also saw in the episode is that how much the shadows already have their claws sunk into the other three main governments. They're all they're all asking for Morden to be released, and the Minbari's motivation is more direct because Delenn is pretty much in charge. But the thing is, distant Earth Gov, it's kind of like they're getting pressure to release them. This what do you call it? The Narn are asking for him to be released. The what do you call it? Even
Did the Narn ask for us?
even Veer.
No, they didn't.
The Narns are not.
Pardon?
Well,
The Narns aren't asking them to be released.
let's talk about that stuff. With Veer and everything.
And
A little bit.
And then Veer, who can't stand Morden, is being told by his government, you got to release him.
Well, it's Malari himself. Londo is specifically
Right.
said that they want him released. When he presents it to Sheridan, he says that the government he has diplomatic immunity because he's here as a guest of, which is kind of interesting because technically isn't he a citizen of Earthdome?
Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch, right? It's like, oh, well, they're our guests, so they get diplomatic immunity. It's like,
yeah.
But from earlier,
Well, remember what Sheridan says also, that he's like, what makes him so important to the Centauri?
That's an internal matter.
And what's he said?
And
Internal matter.
We already know from earlier in the show that Veer detests Morden.
Oh yeah.
To the core. So the thing is, for him, can you imagine what's going on through his head?
Oh
to
yeah.
be going to detest Morden that much, and then still he has to ask for his release.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was so surprising at all because Veer is a diplomat in a sense. He's taking over with Londo's not there. Veer might hate him personally, but he's doing what his government told him to do, and he knows. He is Londo's assistant, and Londo seems to be very, loyal and trust him. I think Veer knows pretty much everything that Londo has been doing.
Yeah, Veer's been there from the very
Does-
beginning.
does-
He knows the whole deal.
Do you
Right,
think?
but
Do
he
you
knows
think?
he's going down the wrong
Which is
path
why he hates
already.
them. Yeah, which is why he hates more.
Do you think that by him saying, "I'm sorry, that's an internal matter," was a hint to Sheridan? Do you think it was maybe him dropping a hint to Sheridan that there's more to this guy than you may think?
There might be that.
Kind of a, did you pick up on this here?
Well,
I'm dropping a hint without dropping a hint type of thing,
Well,
Yeah,
no,
well, they do
Veer at
sometimes.
this point is still sort of like Londo is sort of still training him at this point,
Right.
and you'll see the little things that'll peek out, like when he got drunk on that other episode, and he got to that point, and some of the things he's done in between. But there are things that he won't do, that he stops at, and he'll be like, okay, okay, Londo, I'll do it. I won't. I don't like it.
Prisoner to be released because on behalf
I don't like it,
sorry,
but I'll do it.
Right,
Yeah.
or perhaps he's avoiding the situation when he doesn't feel it rises up to his morals or ethics on what he thinks is correct diplomatic behavior.
And we never did see what was on that data crystal, did we? They never did show that.
No.
Nope, some sort of information. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will find out later, or it'll it's for something in the future.
Maybe in the next episode. I don't know. Well, yeah, that's the next disc too. But it's just very interesting that the way that Veer has come into his own right, but he's still
Which
following
is why I
orders.
saved that thing for last.
I don't see the problem. I mean, I agree with you. He's coming into his own. We're starting to see his character, and seems to be much more moral and upstanding than Londo anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that he did that. I mean, he's got to follow the orders of his government. So
Right.
He doesn't have
And
a
his
choice.
boss, for that matter. I mean, Londo's his boss.
Yep.
So, and Londo told him, get him released. And
Welcome, Shadow and Sun. Good to see you.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's up, man? Hail, Shadow and Sun. But the whole thing with Morden is kind of interesting. Somebody had asked in the chat if Morden was human. Yes, he is human. I don't know if they're exerting some sort of control over him by being, with the shadow being always with him, or if it's just you're going to do what we say type of thing. One of the comments that Straczynski made regarding the guy who plays Morden said that he specifically picked him out because he reminded him of Rod Serling. He said he looks like the spitting image of him. He's a sharp dresser. He's very well spoken, and he plays that character, just the way he presents it, as confident and cocky a little bit. Of course, he's got two big guys standing behind him, which in a way he does.
Well, remember what Talia said in the med lab about what she felt in Mr. Morden, that it was like a deep black hole.
Cold,
And,
yeah.
And remember, Morden and Kosh fought. And
no, something fought.
well, I assume it was with Morden. Not him per se, and Kosh got damaged, and I assume Morden. I think we saw Morden he was bruised or something afterwards. I don't remember, but
which does beg the question: how does the shadow how have they not picked up on Kosh being one of these?
I think they know that Kosh is there, but they don't know the extent of they might be moving around the galaxy, and they might know who he is, but they don't they might just run into him and not know that and that he's how far along they are.
And even in his in Morden's first appearance, half the time he looks like he's distracted, probably listening to the shadows who are alongside him, which are now proven to be alongside him, because he's never alone.
Yeah, I made that assumption.
Nathan, you're absolutely right on that. And if you listen carefully, anytime that Morden's been around, and they kind of snuck on certain episodes, they snuck it in just a tinge, but you hardly don't pick it up. You hear something, and then you're hearing it louder now. You're hearing that insect, that you're hearing in the background.
And Sheridan hears something is in this episode. He says, "Do you hear that?" He says to Zach, and Zach, "I don't hear nothing. You hear that? It sounds like something." So I assume that's he's getting. Yeah, no, I assume that I think Morden's a human. He's got these guys that are constantly whispering to him, telling him, something. Whether it's either, I don't think it's probably not threatening, because I think he's a believer. But at least it's telling him what to do or supporting him somehow.
Yeah, what we've seen is Morden is basically their spokesman. At this point, he's the face of this operation. His associates, as he calls them, speaking for them.
Yeah,
because
they don't want to be revealed for whatever reason.
They don't want to be. Well, they don't want to be seen. They're moving slowly, as it was alluded to,
and probably don't want to be seen for the same reason that Kosh doesn't want to be seen, right?
Yeah.
So that's the assumptions I made, and I would also, we talked about. I'm going back a little bit. We talked a little bit about Morden's, Morden's lies and stuff he told this. My assumption is that, he's not the only representative they have, and they might have a similar one back on Earth that would, that could, try, erase records on Morden, or do whatever shenanigans needed to be done in order to, keep him or other things hidden. So
and that's also noted that since the Psi Corps can see them, that there is some influence. It's becoming apparent, I think, that there's some influence.
We know Talia can see him,
right? Which means that Bester could see them.
Well, we don't know. Talia has a special ability, though.
Yeah,
remember,
Talia is different. We don't know how much stronger she is than.
But from what the way it was explained to me, and or that I picked up, and then from things that I heard through the show is that the Psi Corps knows all about these things. So
Where'd you get that reference?
I
from?
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
I
see
think
any evidence
get that.
of
influence
that.
at release. I don't know.
I don't see any evidence of that. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. They may, but I don't think we've been shown anything.
I don't think we've been shown that specifically, but it certainly is definitely heavily hinted.
I mean,
It might be hinted, but we don't know.
I assume that's what's going on because I assume that the shadows are also influencing the Earth government and probably through Psycor.
And
But-
the current president.
Yeah, but I don't know that. Like, that's just an assumption I'm making.
Yeah, and at this point, I was going to say the one thing that, and I forgot which of you had pointed it out. Talia isn't purely a telepath anymore. She's got that. It might be a multidisciplinary type thing because now she's got a little bit of TK ability, and maybe that's warped her brain enough so she can actually see the shadows. But
we don't know.
Well,
Remember, she talked to her buddy there who gave her some sort of power, and then he ascended. It seems
Right.
So we don't know that. I mean, she could be the most powerful psychic / telepath in the entire galaxy, but she hasn't.
She's
come
clearly
into her power
now.
We don't know. We have no idea. I mean, she could be way powerful than any.
Right.
But isn't Bester like a P12?
We don't know.
He's a P12, isn't he?
Yeah, but I'm just saying
not.
we have no idea
Bester's a P12.
Right.
We have no idea what the extent of her power is because he gave her something we don't know what it is, right? So
I just a reminder of something that we were told in an earlier episode is Jakar stated that there are no Narn telepaths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there.
Yep.
Okay.
But,
okay. Does anybody have any other comments on this last big reveal section? Any?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Jeff, do you have one as well? You want to go first?
no, you go ahead
Okay.
because
I wanted to point this out, and I'm sort of curious what they think. This is, it's kind of about this. I was thinking about this. Kosh says, well, first of all, I don't necessarily, Mimbari kind of lie, so I don't, Delin does all the talking in this thing, and we don't know how honest she's being. We talked about that. Plus, we don't know how much, you can understand that Kosh because he would know what's going on, but she might, it's been 1,000 years. She might know, but just try to think of what we know about our own history 1,000 years ago. We're not, that close about it. But the main thing I wanted to mention was that Kosh, if Kosh says, why do you wear the encounter suit? And he says, who will know? And he says, everyone. Now, does he include the humans in that? He doesn't say not the humans. I earlier mentioned that it shouldn't be us humans because we haven't been in space long enough. But he says everyone specifically, not just spacefaring. So it kind of implies that humans would also recognize him. This seems to hint to me that Kosh might be something that we would recognize in our own mythology as well.
Actually,
like angels and demons type stuff, perhaps. So I'm just throwing that out there. Some of you guys probably know that, but I don't.
Delenn had said something on that, and I think I mentioned it before. It's the line where the last great war against the shadows was 10,000 years ago. It was the last time the ancients walked openly among us.
Openly.
Openly.
Yeah. Which
so putting that perspective,
be around.
They may have been around. They may have been on Earth and many other worlds. We never knew it.
And there is hints that there. I mean, it's been in our in our own mythology, non-Babylon 5 stuff. People have suggested that within the mythology, the gods, Zeus,
giants,
Thor, Odin might have walked among us, 1,000 years ago.
The ancient Greek gods or the Roman gods.
That's a pretty common.
Or the Indian gods, I guess. Whatever you call
whatever gods you want. So there could be some aspect. I mean, if we were to recognize them, then that would imply that they are also in our own mythology already.
Without us realizing, perhaps.
So that would suggest that the Doctor, when he looked in and saw them, he actually does know. I initially assumed that humans didn't recognize them because they didn't bother to, have the Doctor killed or hidden away, or like Kosh didn't, do something to prevent it from happening. Maybe they just.
Well, remember he was recalled. He was recalled to Earth under the old president.
Yeah.
Which I don't think the old president was under any undue influence at the time. I think there was a conspiracy, as we've
to replace him.
We've discussed before. I mean, clearly there was something. It was basically an assassination attempt.
It wasn't only the Doc. Remember, Lita Alexander, the telepath at that time in the pilot, basically she touched Kosh at that.
Well, and remember,
she was recalled.
But did she see him?
I would assume she connected with him, so she had to do something.
Well, but he says that if anybody sees him,
right,
they will recognize him.
Yeah, she had some kind of encounter with him.
She did. Yeah. She did for sure.
Yeah.
But but he
that's how she got his memory of what happened.
So I mean, I initially assumed because we don't know that Kosh took any action against this Doctor or the telepath, that humans would not recognize him. But he does say, I'm kind of rethinking that, because he says everyone. Like,
that's
not just these guys, everybody. So that implies to me that, he actually is, some sort of figure. The Vorlons are some figure that we would recognize from our own mythology.
Which let me ask you so you're under the assumption that when they're talking about the Vorlons, that Kosh is the only Vorlon or that's remaining, or do you think that there are other Vorlons? Because I'm still open to the possibility that Kosh is not the only Vorlon.
Well, I mean, first of all, I assume that the name Vorlon is a false name. Otherwise, if you said, "Hey, the Vorlons are back," and everyone knows that the Vorlons are these, that's the name of this ancient, whatever.
It's so same as the shadow, same as the shadows. They say we just call them the shadows.
Right.
Yeah.
We have not seen any evidence of anything of more than one Vorlon thingy at a time, other than his spaceship.
So I assume that the shadows aren't called the shadows. That's just what we call them.
I'm sure they call them. Yeah, they have a name for themselves.
They have a name for themselves. We just use that now.
And we know there's plural because there's two.
Yeah. So I assume that the Vorlons are just the name that he decided to make up for himself or something, and it's not really their real name, because if it was, if they were know what they look like, if I said, "Hey, the angels are back," we would, "Oh, angels!" Oh, like that would give it away. And I also assume that, based on what Delin said in this episode, that he's the only one, that all the rest of them left. There are no other Vorlons around.
Yeah, maybe he's Michael.
Well, no, she mentions that the other first ones are gone.
Right. The oldest ones are gone.
Gone.
The ancients, I think, is the way that they call them, which is the oldest one. That first tier, that was only maybe the first and oldest group. They've already gone. The second group is all but the Vorlons are gone. The Vorlons are the only ones that have remained behind.
Doesn't he say where are they? And there's only she says there's only one left, and he goes, "Well, where are they?" And she goes, "You're standing beside them."
Yeah. Well, you're standing beside one of them at least. I don't know.
It's important to note Sheridan's reaction to that. He seemed stunned by that claim.
Yeah.
PB brings it up from season 1. That there are more Vorlons, because if you remember the Deathwalker episode, when Deathwalker was leaving Babylon 5, a second Vorlon ship appeared.
That's right,
and
because
destroyed.
Kosh is on board the station, and presumably his spaceship or spaceship pet, because it acts like it's alive or something. So yeah, they're already on the station. So that means that, okay, so plural.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good point. Also, we know that when we send ships, what did he say? We sent 3 ships to the Vorlon, 3 separate expeditions to the Vorlon homeworld, and they all disappeared. So
Mhm.
Nobody
somebody's got
returned.
to be there, stopping something from happening. But
Well,
we've never seen more than one.
maybe the shadows stopped them. Who knows? But we haven't gotten to that. But the one thing I did want to bring up, I mentioned in the private chat here, the decision that Sheridan has to make on what to do about Morden in the very end, and uh, he tells that the World War II story about the Enigma machine, the Allies in World War II. We cracked the German code, but you know,
Coventry.
we discovered that Coventry was going to be attacked, and the thing is that if we had evacuated Coventry, or if the Allied forces had evacuated Coventry, it would have revealed it would have shown our hand that we had that, and of course the code would have been changed, and we would have set back World War II to last even longer. So, which could have changed the tide of the war for all we know, very possibly. So, Churchill had that decision to make. Do we act with this knowledge, or do we hold on to it and use this for the greater good? To win the war, as opposed to prevent the catastrophe. And I think Sheridan, and pursuing Morden with his wife and all that, versus trying to get immediate satisfaction, versus um, uh, letting him go, and getting more information, and being able to do what he's been shown. What Kosh has shown him. And what's been revealed. So, what do you guys think regarding that whole alliteration to the World War II?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious what Sheridan has to do. He doesn't know. He doesn't even know that his wife is alive, and and the Lynn tells him, you know, right out the bat, billions could die if if
To save
this thing
one,
doesn't go.
yeah,
Like, he's going to try to push this to save his wife, who may already be dead, in
right.
order to save billions. I mean, that's not the he
Or
doesn't.
worse
His
than dead.
character has been presented to us. I don't think
It's a moral dilemma,
it's
really.
it's an
Yeah.
obvious choice for him.
This whole
You know,
It
episode is
was
full
Star
of
Trek logic, or Star Trek wisdom. You know how they always mention two. In Star Trek they mention 2 historical things, and then they mention some fictional science fiction fictiony in their past thing.
right.
So I think this was one to provide. This was one to provide emotional detail, or a clear context as to why Sheridan has to make that decision.
yeah,
It also gives him the chance to do the exposition to the audience, to tell us that, yeah, people have done this kind of stuff before.
yeah, but I think it's pretty obvious. Like, he can't make any other decision based on his character. Like, he's an honorable military guy. He's not gonna
Right. Yeah,
sacrifice billions of people to maybe have a chance to find out what happened to his wife.
and that whole World War II theme clearly fits in with I think where we're going with the next topic. But
Generally, just to bring up, Nathan had said, with the Star Trek thing, the situation. Yeah, generally the writers on these shows, they go by that pattern, to the point when they do the expositions this way, and you see a lot of this in multiple shows, and a lot of these writers, do work on multiple shows. In fact,
mhm.
season 3, we will be seeing some of the writings of Spock's son, Adam Nimoy, who's going to be on 2 episodes, writing on 2 episodes next season. So we'll see what he brings to the table.
I think JMS referred to them as the bane of his existence.
Exactly.
The other writers, the writing people that were throughout the whole commentary track he was going off on the little things that maybe it's that artist mentality where they always want to go back and fix things after the fact. He was complaining about Dylan's hair, the hairpiece, and how the hair wasn't sitting right. The interrogation room where you see Sheridan with his feet up on the table. He says that was supposed to be a big long table, and all they had was that small little table. and then in the very same the next scene is where the doctor and Susan are he had some sleep and now is getting something to eat, and he's like, that's the same exact set. We just move stuff around, and now we've got this really big long table and only 2 people sitting at it. And he's like, the writers, they're the bane of my existence. But I don't know. Are we moving towards the Night Watch? I think is where we're going.
Is there anything else in this plot line that everyone wants to? I think we hit it pretty hard for an hour and a half here. So
yeah,
I mean it's the main one, but
well, I mean they all tie together. So it's.
If anybody has anything else of this, I say go to the Night Watch. Sure. All right.
No, I think Michael is the one that, or Nathan mentioned it. Sorry. You want to start off with that?
Well, at this point there isn't at this point in the show there isn't really too much to go by other than this kind of sounds like a rerun or a repeat of the racist guy in the previous season. Earth only for humans. Yeah, it's just that it's been turned around.
This is more sanctioned, but this one is sanctioned. The Night Watch is sanctioned by Earthdome.
The ministry,
right? And
no, it's the new Ministry of Peace,
right? So mini pack.
Really, so it sounds like the with the change of the president, because he got toasted, Santiago, and now you have the Clark administration. It sounds like it has been building towards a more intolerant Earth society. Now, we're not, except for what we hear on the news. We don't know too much about what's going on at home. So,
right.
But for them to have like a sanctioned thing, and this organization has money to pay people 50 bucks or 50 credits just to be a monitor.
See something, say something, right?
Yeah. So, and the thing is, right now, it seems, marginally innocent enough. I say marginally because we get all that. We always get that thing. It's like, wait a minute, why are you watching me? Kind of thing. And it's like, sorry, I just got the image in my head from Superman. No, I put nanobots on everybody.
Right, yeah. And Zach, of course, at the very end, you see Zach's got the armband on there proudly. He signed up for it,
right?
And so and that's how it happens. One, piece by piece, one small little creep thing at a time.
Right.
Now, can I bring up that? What does this sound like to you? This is 1990s. And they're talking about it. Let me bring up this line here. The Ministry of Peace meeting preaches on the dangers of subversive thought. Thus, they created Night Watch, a paid volunteer group to make the public start thinking about peace. Essentially, their information gathering group and by information they mean rumors. We must protect society against its own worst instincts.
Right.
Doesn't
For
that
our
sound
own
familiar
good or
to what we've
protection.
been going through the last couple of years?
And Straczynski named a couple of names too. He said, "Oh, I don't know, Homeland Security."
Well,
He actually
no,
specifically
no.
called out Homeland
No,
Security.
no.
There was
Security
no
is a
Homeland
2000
Security.
thing,
We
not a
had
1996.
There
the
was no
Ministry of
Homeland.
Information
Right.
was almost
He
put together
I'm
during the
talking
Biden
about it.
administration.
Yeah, I'm talking about JMS said this in the
Yeah.
commentary track. He
Yeah.
specifically said he was very much trying to point towards
yeah.
1984 and Orwellian,
Yeah.
and then he goes on to name stuff like the Department of Homeland Security, for example, for your own protection, and we've seen where that went in recent history.
Yeah, because
stuff
that
like
was you guys remember when that DVD was released at the time period. That was toward 9/11.
It was after, it would have been after
Yeah, it was
9/11
right after 9/11.
because there
But
wasn't.
if you're listening to what they're talking about on this, and you got to look at Talia. That's the biggest
Right.
important part. Look at Talia when what's his name Pierce is talking about this situation. She's disgusted of
Right.
this. She knows what it's turning into.
Yes.
Immediately, she says, she wants no part of this now. At this point,
Yeah,
because of what they're saying.
I assumed she wasn't going to join.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling she was not going to be a party to it either. But
I think it's funny that Zach knows nothing about World War II history. Oh, I fell asleep in history class.
Well, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. But that's yep.
And then he's all for I'll take the $50 and wear the armband.
Yeah, sure. I'll join the brown shirts. Oh wait,
call me a brown shirt. Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
And now, here's the speculation thing. I'd like to point out that now the thing though is that just to stir anyone listening, just to stir up the paranoia. Well, the Psi Corps isn't everywhere, and the Psi Corps, if they're following, if the rules that Bester said is true, that they've got, and Talia said is true all the time, that they've got to wear the gloves all the time. Then what happens is, how do you get the information when there's only effectively one telepath on board the whole station? And the thing is, they're going to be all over. They'll be all over Earth, probably, but not necessarily all over the colonies. So,
they give that excuse that the gloves, kind of give them a little, but do they really? You know what I mean?
Right.
Talia
I
didn't
know
need
the real
it
answer, but yeah.
Talia didn't need it to see what Morton was up to. She didn't touch him.
Nope.
It could be that they're also really, really, the shadows are really, really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Well, psychically, I suspect they are. I think that's how they're influencing people like Morton and whatnot.
Now, also, we mentioned it in the green room, but I don't know if we mentioned it out here. The actor who played Pierce Maccabee is Alex Hyde White, and most people don't recognize who he is. But if you guys know the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, he's Mr. Fantastic in that movie.
Okay.
Which
was one of the movies for past movie night.
Yeah. There was a story about when I guess they were at a convention or something like that. Jeff that played Zach, Bruce Boxletter, of course, Sheridan and JMS, and they were out there having some lunch or something. So people walked up to them and recognized. They were pointing at the table, and they recognized, and they walked up, and of course Bruce Boxletter said, "Oh, they recognized me from the show, right?" Thinking he was the one, and they recognized Jeff from Grease. And I'm like, "Oh, is that where he came from?" I forgot, So I didn't even realize he was in Grease.
Now, does anyone appear now this Night Watch situation? How do you guys feel? Do you think that this is important going forward? This whole Night Watch situation.
I'm assuming, being the virgin, one of the virgins.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is gonna expand. That Earth is going to become. I mean, this is so obviously a 1984 Nazi brown shirt situation that I find it hard to I find it even hard to believe that there would be people in, well, I guess it's 250 years from now. Maybe Zach doesn't know, but I just find it hard to believe that people wouldn't be like, wait a second, this is, especially when they say, they specifically say in word or in thought. I'm like, oh Jesus, that's the thought police, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, they
And
go right they
he
go right for
absolutely
it.
confirmed that. No, he was aiming dead on. In fact, he said he debated about whether or not to put the armbands in there because it was so blatantly obvious with the armbands,
Mhm.
and that he wasn't sure if he needed to, but again, he's the artist always.
I think it was pretty
questioning.
obvious. Like
But
it
it
was like
was obvious with or without the armbands.
it was
But
like a
the
bat to the
armbands
head.
just kind of like smack. If you didn't get it then, here you'll get it now, or we're going with
Yeah,
this.
and I mean it
They
does
brought
fit.
it up twice, so it's not going to be. It's not going to be, as you say, a JMS trapdoor. Because if they just did it as a throwaway thing at the beginning of the episode, then yeah, okay, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But because they have to mention it twice, like, oh, these Night Watch guys are running around, and then that he took the thing, that he's taken the payoff. It's gonna. I know the answer, but the thing is, at this point, it looks like it's going to turn into something.
Yeah, you don't have to know the answer. I think I don't know the answer, but it seems obvious to me. We've got Sheridan is in a conspiracy with General Haig against the present
The
government.
French resistance, maybe.
So
Or
I
the-
mean, and
the-
then this is another way for the government to is pushing back in a sense. They're going
Trouble at home.
collect
Yeah.
information. It's obvious. So there's going to be, that situation has not come to a head, and I assume it's going to come to a head sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Even if it's not this season, it's got to.
Well,
this is another piece of the puzzle in that.
Yeah, we've heard inklings since the season 1 finale episode through season 2 that there's something going on back home. What's going on back
it's
there?
obvious.
Night Watch, Ministry
Riots
of
on
Heat,
Mars and stuff like that.
the riot on Mars. Yeah, exactly. Who is behind this? I mean, obviously we may have some inklings on who's behind this, but how deep does it go?
Well, I mean, it doesn't even matter how deep it goes. Sheridan is deeply involved in the conspiracy, and he's brought the other majors in Babylon 5 into it. He did that a couple episodes ago. So
Right, exactly.
they're going to have to come to some sort of eventually. There's going to be some sort of a head between Babylon 5 and the Earth government, at least.
Which makes you wonder if Garibaldi and Zach are going to have it out at some point too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm assuming, that Zach's going to be a foil to Garibaldi's going to have to take care of him, either kill him or convert him or something. I mean, he's going to be the eyes and ears of the Earth government, I assume. I assume he's fairly high up in the. I don't think is he Garibaldi's number 2? I don't think he's his number 2, but he's obviously trusted or something.
Yeah. Well, he did take over when Garibaldi.
He took over the prisoner. He didn't take over the.
Well, when he resigned immediately, I mean, he reported right to Sheridan.
Well, no, Sheridan. I assume Sheridan called him.
Yeah.
And then he said, "You're in charge of the prisoner. Don't let anybody see him." Sheridan didn't say, "You're taking over Garibaldi's job." He just said, "Garibaldi's on a temporary leave of absence."
Which Garibaldi was like, "No, this is permanent unless you fix yourself." But
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would like to go. I'd like to do actually a little bit about the Narn refugees and the Doctor and it being a foundationalist stuff. If we are done with the Night Watch, and I think that's the main thing we have. That's the only other thing we have to talk about. And then
as far as
the episode,
as far as the Night Watch goes, I think even if we don't see them again, and I suspect we'll see a lot of them, it just adds to the whole narrative. I mean, it's building the whole case of where we're going. Just knowing that exists now, it adds to where the Earth Dome is going, with the current administration that's in power there.
Yeah,
you know.
they're going full
Yeah.
fascist.
They're going full fascist. Yeah.
Now, put this in your mind. Last week's episode, 36 Hours on Babylon 5. Did the Ministry of Peace authorize that? Think about it for just a moment, especially with that commercial by Psychor at the end.
Oh, probably. Yeah. They wanted to. Mm.
Well, I mean, I think we discussed this last week. I was a little bit, um, media manipulation. The government seemed to. I assume the government, sponsored it and pushed it through, but they seemed to sort of come from a somewhat negative view of Babylon 5 at the beginning,
Mhm.
and then at the end, the newsreader she says something positive about Babylon 5.
Right.
So that would that's how the government if you're running a news program and you want to manipulate, you first start out as a very skeptic, and then you act as like, oh, I've
We're
been
sold on it.
convinced.
Yeah.
I've been convinced. I've been sold, right? So this is a good way to convince people. Oh yeah. See, that guy was against it, and now he's for it. So maybe I should do the same. He knows more than me. So I mean, I'm assuming that was pushed by the government, but I'm
Or
not sure.
manipulated at the least.
Yeah, I'm not
You
sure
know.
why the government would be sort of pro Babylon 5 though. It
Right.
seems because it's now it appears to be a hotbed of conspiracy against the present government. But maybe they don't know that. But
Yeah, but now this week we have Night Watch.
Yeah.
Understand?
Another thing is it could be
yeah, that's true.
but-
I mean, but that could be a couple of things. It could be, they don't trust Babylon 5 and now they're putting the Night Watch out. But I think, like the Night Watch, I'm assuming that would be a program that would have been in the works for months, and it's been slowly being rolled out on Earth. And but maybe not. Maybe they start on Babylon 5. But maybe they're pushing, they're going pro Babylon 5 so they can more easily get the Night Watch in there and get information as to what's going on.
It could also be it could be a few other things. One, maybe the government hadn't gotten to the news yet. Another thing, something that pops in from real life, because I'm one of your evil conservative types. Is I found out that in real life that the interview style of British news is way different than American. American is just nice and conversational. Like, yeah, there's a set of questions, but they're not necessarily hardball questions. British news interviewing, when they're interviewing guests, is intentionally adversarial. So what you do is you ask questions to intentionally trip the other person up, not because you sense something, not because you sense as a news reporter something is going to get in the way, but just simply because when a person's put on edge, they're more likely to make mistakes and actually reveal true information or true feelings. So
Yeah,
that
Nathan.
so-
Nathan, you are absolutely right. Back in my school days, broadcasting, we were taught that on both ends, both ends of the spectrum, U.S. versus BBC network and all that. That this is how it's done to that point. The subtle differences between the two, or the aggressive differences between the two.
Yeah, with British interviewing being way aggressive compared to what other people have seen on, like, on news shows, like or semi news shows, that we have currently on here on American TV.
Right.
So the Night Watch could just be simply a response to maybe they actually have information that they know that Sheridan is not to be trusted. So maybe this is their way of getting information on him and find out what he's up to. That's a possibility as well.
There's also another thing that they could be doing is that this is something I get from my favorite RPG, but and also part of a closed or secretive society. You may have what are considered open monitors, open night watch people, and you might have secret night watch people. The idea being that if you're an honest, upstanding citizen and you see something, but you're not the night watch person, you'll go up to the night watch person and say, "Hey, hey, Zach, I saw such and such happening. Is that okay?" And Zach will go, "I don't know. I'll go ask my boss about that." And but you may actually have, well, basically secret monitors who don't reveal themselves, and they're just there without an armband, just looking around. You know, welcome to paranoid and secretive 1984 societies.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the non-refugees and the doctor. Anybody want to dig into that?
Yeah, I'll start off with you see this line of refugees, and the doctor is of course they're just kind of you know refugee after refugee, and they're discussing this. Um, it just seems like it's a never-ending line. Of course, and then you cut to where in the med bay, and there's just patients everywhere, and patient number 16 I think is mentioned. Narn patient 16, Narn patient 17. Different statuses on all these. So you're getting the thing that the station is clearly overwhelmed with refugees and injured from the conflict between the Centauri and the Narn. Um, so and the doctor is pushing himself. He's taking stems. The whole "doctor heal thyself" mentality, which probably is something he shouldn't be doing. He's basically becoming a stem addict, and that clearly is something that because he thinks that his people, they need him. Without him, they won't be able to continue, and but what he's pushed himself to the point where what good is he to anyone in the state where he's not getting sleep, and what full of stems and all that stuff. Anybody else want to take it from there? And
Well, the first thing out of the bat, the war is not going well for the Narns to begin with,
mm,
as we can see from what's going on, what all the people that they're bringing in, that they're literally overwhelmed at Medland. The other part of it, and the conversation at the uh, between the doctor and Ivanova is,
mm,
you're hearing what his beliefs are at this point, and I'm going to tell you, it's basically pay attention to that. Do pay attention, because basically I think he's going forward very important, because especially now that he's going through the stims. You see that he's exhausted.
mm-hmm,
He's literally falling asleep, at his console. That he's not sleeping at all, to that point. And emotionally, the emotional strain that you see that goes on him, and we've seen that strain happen back at Gropes, Grappos, when the part with him and his father situation, which that kind of stressed him out as well at that point. And then now that we have this going on, that this whole non refugee situation, it's compounding everything that he's gone through in these last several episodes.
On my part, the thing that after seeing this episode, kind of well, I'd forgotten about Grappos. I haven't reviewed it, and I wasn't in the audience to see that episode, but to hear you guys reviewing it. But what strikes me is from back in season one again with the with the Akarans and their and that artifact. It struck me at the time that that uh, that the doctor was an atheist. Like
so he's a foundationalist. I mean, that's what he says now. But
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He didn't say anything about not having a religion or having some sort of set of beliefs, but it seemed like that to me at the time that it wasn't nearly that if he had beliefs, it wasn't nearly as important as anything relating to science. You know, he was very much firmly in the hi, it's all science, and we're flesh and blood, and once we're gone, we're gone.
Yeah, I mean that's what I felt as well. I did find it interesting that I mean that he sort of feels personally responsible for the loss of every one of his patients. That seems a little bit, you know, that means that he's very caring about them, and that it seems a little, over the top for like a doctor, like at some point, you're a doctor, you can't do everything, you're not a miracle worker, so you have to be able to, hey, I did my best, and it just was out of my, I couldn't do anything, the person was just too far gone. But he seems to feel it very personally, so I think I guess they're building to something that could come and be very negative for him in the future, if he's taking every single lost patient very personally. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, I was going to mention something about this too. Basically we have these Franklin scenes, and I usually just write one sentence. Like in this case, I wrote Franklin doubts God. Um, Surprise. And Franklin is in this episode. I was like, my God, he is so insufferable. I can't stand this character at some point. I mean, other times I like him just fine, but my God, it's like this is like a sociopath to me. I mean, it's like you're not a savior, you're a doctor, and he gets so up his own ass about this stuff that it just annoys the hell out of me. I mean, it really is like, I mean, if I encountered someone like that in the real world, I would be like, there's something wrong with this guy. He's got some uh, problems that he's projecting into these things, and maybe you don't have the mindset that you need to be a doctor. I understand if it's like, this is horrible and this is a tragedy and everything, but it's like he goes on these philosophical ramblings uh, eh, kind of regularly.
yeah,
And
he does.
you know,
He does.
to me, this is a red flag. It's like this guy needs to get some help.
Yeah, he
Remember,
he
we're getting a Dr. Franklin episode in 2 episodes from now.
yeah,
Now, I mean, doctors have this god complex, but
Yeah.
yeah.
like it is pretty.
But you
It
got to
reminds
remember at
me.
this point on Earth, like as far as Earth science, on that, of course, with alien technology and medical science and all, we've we've started to extend life at this point. As far as that, they're able to cure more diseases than they've had before. A lot of these doctors have taken to the next step level where they said, you know, um, how's it called? And I hate to pull a Star Trek on this. What McCoy said one time, he says, "I could believe I can cure a rainy day." If you remember that line, this is where we've gotten to with a lot of these doctors that, and we've seen this from past episodes of what's going on. That basically, they're trying to cure everything the best they can, but then they come across something that just basically wipes them out that they can't solve, and then they just completely come apart.
Yeah.
Is there anybody have a question or answer to Dean's question, which is, I mean, a little bit off the doctor. We're still talking about the Narn too, but I don't know the answer to that question myself, Dean. I'm kind of curious myself. Why are they going to Babylon 5 and not to a
Well,
Narn homeworld?
they
I can
refer
answer that.
to as refugees, though.
Yeah. No, these basically what is happening at this point is with the war that's going on, the Centauri are attacking uh basically there are other worlds the Norn live on. They're like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that
Colonies.
basically
Colonies.
throughout, their colonies, and they're
Yeah.
throughout the galaxy on there. The Centauri are coming in and taking over that part of space because some of them, because of the wars of them going back and forth for the longest, is the Narn have taken over some worlds that belong to the Centauri and vice versa. So
Right.
basically, it's just literally the Centauri's coming in and you know, just going, completely scorch earth on everything. So, you have all these refugees, and what it is, Babylon 5 is the way station between there and going back to Homeworld.
Yeah, the two things with that is that um, since Deathwalker's race had launched that war against everybody, and the humans basically came along and saved all the minor races. What happened was that was when the Narn were at, so to speak, uh, at the height of their empire, and the Centauri had been losing ground little by little over the decades. You know, homeworld here, homeworld there. They're too busy. They're too busy gazing at their navels and doing internal stuff. This war is basically allowing them to retake back all of the worlds that they had, that the Narn had taken over the last like 100 years or whatever. Um, so
Even if they weren't there, the Centauris to begin with, but it does cut off. I mean, you see this going on in Ukraine right now.
yeah,
So it's they're trying to break the line, so to speak, and disrupt the Narn's ability to move weapons, armor,
yeah,
Well,
commerce,
remember
everything.
going back to the death of the Centauri Emperor. What was said, that basically, continue. He said when he dies, and Londo lied. Continue, take us back to the stars.
Yeah, and it
Mhm.
really what he said is give them back their planet.
Let,
Or
yeah,
let
yeah,
them let them have
because that's what the Centauri believe, that they want their what they had before, they want it back.
Right.
hmm If I wanted to make a comment about the sociopathy of Dr. Franklin, um, kind of like he reminds me when he's being at his annoying most to Cam, like the I can do everything. He reminds me of Diane from Rick and Morty, when she's ripping out the guts out of this one horse to try and save its life, just to prove that she's better than that she can be a deer surgeon as well. Sorry. I
Live,
just saw that
damn
episode
it.
this week.
I've seen like a half an episode of Rick and Morty, so
I
that meant
actually,
nothing to me.
I would like to.
I
I,
was
I,
going to ask which one Diane you're talking about, but now you did explain what it was.
Yeah.
I
The
actually think that it's. I mean, I kind of said when he starts talking about, you know, when people die, seeing into their eyes and their. I mean,
Hmm.
he sounded like a little bit like a serial killer like some crazy serial killer who goes out. He goes, "Oh, I like to strangle people and watch the life end.
No,
Their
there's
life ends because
psychopathy and sociopathy.
it gives me
One
a
desires
thrill."
control.
He actually JMS actually addressed that too.
That's what it reminded me of. Like I'm like,
He
wait a second.
he said that he got that. He's got friends that are doctors and that had described this to him, and he wanted to explore that, where that happens, as well as touching upon the spiritual aspects and whatnot. And he actually said that was one of the scenes that he couldn't be present when they were filming because he felt too close to it, too personal.
Well,
Because
you got to
of
remember,
the friends
JMS has
that
a habit, and if you notice on this, and even other stuff that he's written, that he talks about life and death on a constant basis. I mean, you're talking about, let's go back, Soul Hunter, Death
Mhm.
Walker, to the points that, life and death, or extension of life and death, to the points that, it becomes just second nature to the show. To the shows he's writing.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One,
And I mean, it was just kind of fascinating. As far as the Narns walking, the refugees, he did. This is a production comment. He said that the Narns that you see coming through that corridor, it's the same 10 actors. They're just literally going around in a circle.
I'm
They're just
sure, yeah.
Yeah,
because
Yeah, we weren't
Budget. He
producing.
said budget. They budget constraints.
Yeah.
Sure.
One real life comment that I wanted to make with regards to just how the world should be working. You've got one major certified doctor for 250,000 people.
I don't. Well, no, I don't.
There's
I
other
don't think.
doctors.
Yeah, there's other doctors.
There's multiple. There are other doctors.
Yeah,
Right,
he's the
Ivanova
head of it.
says so.
Yeah,
Ivanova says so. You don't need to stay here. You've got other doctors.
Yeah,
You can go see.
he's just the head of it, and he's the one
Yeah.
that's immediately responsible for the
like he's the head of the
senior
medical
crew.
section.
Right, and he's in,
Yeah.
and because of his position being over them, he's the one that would see any of the senior officers.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure
he's got
that
an ego, so
yeah, he
Yeah.
does. Well, I mean, have you met doctors? I mean, come on.
I'm just thinking in real life, basically, how many doctors are there in a town of 250,000 people? Like one of the suburbs here in Chicago, one of the major ones.
dozens.
Yeah, dozens upon dozens.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking. I can understand maybe Franklin being just about the only alien specialist or xeno specialist. That would be the right
Yeah,
word.
but
I think.
I mean,
there might be alien doctors as well. But we do know that there's only from the last episode 42% of Babylon 5 is aliens, so that means at least 130,000 humans.
Yeah.
So
Also remember there are clinics in Down Below as well. If you remember from Quality of Mercy,
right?
On that episode, where basically there are other people that are somewhat backwater doctors that live in Down Below,
or that are clinics,
or they must help people.
Sort.
Backwater sociopath.
Even Franklin has a clinic down below also.
Right. And there's official clinics down below.
Yeah.
As well. But there's some.
All right. Did we miss
veterinarians that are patch you up, right?
Did we miss any points, or should we ready to go to final thoughts?
No, we missing something that you wanted to talk about.
You're missing the entire Sheridan story, essentially.
What?
And the Veer part that you wanted to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
Veer Morden.
Uh,
I thought we talked about Veer a little bit.
Yeah.
Already.
This is the Veer origin story, so to speak. This is when he finally gets a spine, like a real spine.
Didn't you want to play a clip? Or is that not working?
All right, might have to turn up your. This is the audio clip of what Veer says to Morton near the beginning of the episode. You might have to turn up your sound a little bit. I don't know why the sound is a little quiet on it. But here we go. I'm gonna play it.
What do you want? I'd like to live just long enough to be there when they cut off your head and stick it on a pike, as a warning to the next 10 generations that some favors come with too high a price. I want to look up into your lifeless eyes and wave like this. Can you and your associates arrange that for me, Mr. Morton?
Okay.
I just love that part.
I do too.
Best line in the whole show, as far as I'm concerned.
And the little wave, the little wave of the fingers.
The little wave at the end, he's like, bye-bye.
And he gives it while he's describing it, and then when he leaves, he does it again with a kind of a smile, like.
Well, we've seen Veer stand up to Londo before, and they've kind of established that Londo does like and respect him. But I think this episode did portray Veer pretty nicely. Again, he has this little interaction with Sheridan and everything where he is doing his job, right? He's representing his government, like Snob, you were saying, and doing it competently, even though he's a little nervous type of character. But with and the contrast that with the Morden thing, where he made it very clear where he stands on him, and he had no particular reason to do that. It doesn't seem at this point, other than it's what he really thinks.
Yeah. I would also mention too that Morton's a scary guy. Like, he's able to I mean, sorry, not physically imposing himself, but he's able to do all these things. If I was Veer, I'd be like, why am I going to piss this guy off? I've seen what he can do. He brings, ships and it gets colonies destroyed without, completely without anyone knowing anything. What else could he do to me? Maybe I shouldn't antagonize him.
But
Well,
he does.
remember, no one has survived to see what these ships are, the shadow ships. So,
which makes it even more worse.
Well, no, for all he knows, it could be just the regular ships to that point that he brings across.
Yeah,
he doesn't know that there's those
But
things
that
are a
doesn't matter
nightmare.
because it happens. The fact that nobody knows makes it worse, right? Like,
Okay, but what this is showing us is something about Veer and
exactly.
the kind of person.
That's my point.
Yeah,
that's my point. It's even stronger, right? Because
but
you don't even know.
But you're seeing between Lanier and Veer, you're seeing that their characters are strengthening as we getting along in season 2, and as we get into season 3, we expect it to get even stronger to that point of their characters are being more utilized than before, than when we first started on there.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is that while you can have a few actors to make the things going, I'll ask you, Madman. Hey, did he Straczynski start getting it in his head to start doing a little bit more of an ensemble sort of thing by getting the sidekicks more involved?
Well, like I said before, what we're seeing here from this point of view is something that he had to rewrite into this storyline from what was before. Now, from what I've read before, I didn't see too much of this from the original scripting that this was on there. I would assume to the point that, as he was going along re-scripting this, that he wanted to give more emphasis on certain characters to the point. Now, you notice Natoth is pretty much gone at this point. And, there will be an add-on to this because it's already been, we've already seen the new character, but it will not be put onto until season 3. And then there will be other add-ons as we get into the next season onto there, because this is not over as secondary characters. There's going to be, if you've ever seen the pictures, and some people might have sneaked in and see the ensemble cast, you're like, oh, who's that? And oh, wait a minute, are they part of this cast? It's basically there are other cast members coming,
right?
There's going to be concentration and storylines as it goes along. I mean, even novelizations, of this storyline in between have been written, and even and after the finale, there's also more stories of that as well, of some of these characters.
Well, we also mentioned that in an earlier episode that the assistants are kind of a vehicle, a writing vehicle to let us know what's going on in the minds of the ambassadors, and so that's used
as thoughts as possible.
Yeah.
It's very important. They're just as important as the main line itself, and you're going to get more of this coming down the pike eventually.
And I actually see the two aides developing into a position where they may take over the ambassadorial job, assuming that their superiors are promoted or removed for some other task. Like I can see Londo moving up in government and Veer taking over for him, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I definitely agree. I think it was good to see Veer. Maybe a little surprising to see him standing up to Morden. I know he doesn't like Morden. Morden gives him. I don't think Morden doesn't give him the heebie-jeebies per se. Well, maybe he does, and he's expressed that to Londo, but he's overcome that maybe, and he's just like, I don't like you, Mr. Morden,
Yeah.
And personally, I can't wait to see your head on a pike. And I mean, it just the way that was written was, it was like, wow, Veer, you've really grown,
Yeah. The other thing going on, I think, is that that Veer doesn't. Well, maybe if he did, he doesn't know the true extent of the of Mr. Morden's associates or the shadows as well as Delenn and Kashno. So I don't know. It remains to be seen. Maybe he'll run from it in terror if he learns the true extent of it.
Yeah,
Of
like
how
I said before, what the snob was saying, that of the extent with Veer is that basically Veer treats this as, he says, okay, yeah, Mr. Morton has ships. He's treating it like the space pirates and all that they have their own mini fleet, and listen, he's a Centauri. They have a gigantic fleet themselves. So if anything comes down to the pike, the Centauri can handle it at that point
right
that we know. But we know at this point, you
at
don't mess
the
with a
audience.
shadow ship.
Yeah, and yeah,
We've only touched the tip of what the shadows can do.
yeah, the first Narn ship just gets sliced in half. Shoom!
Yeah, exactly.
All right, do we want to talk about Sheridan? I thought
Yeah.
we kind of touched on Sheridan's arc, but
Let me take a shot at boiling
Yeah,
it
go
down,
ahead.
and then anybody can make comments. So basically, the way that I saw it is, so Sheridan has these encounters, with Garibaldi, and then with Ivanova, and then also with Zach. So we're kind of seeing, his different views on these things. And then you mentioned about the World War II thing, but it's to all appearances, and he says this outright. It's like, I know this looks crazy, essentially. But then he explains why, and we get a bit of a view into, this is really, his wife's death is really sticking with him, and it's like, it's kind of the thing about, is it right, or is it lawful, kind of thing. And he knows he's doing the wrong thing in terms of holding Morden and all this stuff, and he's like, oh, he's dead officially, I could do anything I want to him, I mean, he's being kind of flippant about it. But when it really comes down to when he talks to Ivanova about it, and where Garibaldi, I understand his thing, but Ivanova seemed to make the, kind of get through to him.
It's
um
the
and
spirit
and
of the
he,
law versus the letter of the law, I think, was pointed out.
yes. But Ivanova, he explained it to her in a way that he finally got through to somebody, and maybe because they had kind of established they had somewhat of a relationship before he came to the station. That it's like, nothing. It's like, yeah, I can follow all the rules I want, but it doesn't matter. I can't live with myself, essentially. So I just thought that was an important thing to note about Sheridan's character.
Right.
Well, you got to remember, uh, when I sent out the X promo for this show, if you remember what I put in it, his heart overrides his head when he illegally detains a visitor. To the point, he's thinking with his heart and not with his head to this point. And with Ivanova, basically, she's put to the point where she said so, but she has some skeletons in her own closet to the point that she's gone with, and she sort of understands in her way what he's going through
Right.
when it comes to the situation, when it comes to death of someone they love, to that point, and it goes further on to it's not fully explained, but you hear it in certain things about her father and her mother, and they don't talk to we only briefly got about the brother who was lost in the Mimbari War.
Right.
They haven't gotten really too much into that, so and that's why she joined Earth Force, at that point. And how much in her life that she's lost and the feelings that she's gone through, and now she sees her captain going through those same feelings.
Right.
Which
So
is
maybe she's relating. She's relating on. She's empathetic to what he's going through, but she does point out. Look, as you're as an officer, I it's my duty to tell you, because Sheridan got on to Garibaldi about quoting the regs to a senior officer. He gets all kind of mean about it, and then Ivanova basically kind of does the same thing, but maybe because she is, his number one, so to speak. She's like, it's my duty to tell you when you're crossing the line, and and I don't want to have to report this. That's a bridge too far that I don't want to cross. Don't make me do that. So clearly, she's got an upper hand in that regards, and and everybody really is kind of going
I
against it.
thought this would have shown up on his psych profile already. Still has unresolved issues concerning wife.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that yes, it makes for great drama, but he's not as well put together, I guess you could say, uh, as as in real life people would like him to be.
Franklin
Well,
should go down and relieve him of command.
Maybe if
well,
that's what's necessary. That way he
Frank was
doesn't
all stemmed up.
That's
stop
what McCoy
sending
would do.
these narn to the med bay.
Yeah.
All right. Any more else on Cam on Sheridan?
No, that's all I had to say.
I think it's he is a little bit over the top at some point, I think. And considering it's his wife, and you could see how you think your wife is dead. Oh, maybe she's alive. Like, you could see how he'd be worked up, but he's also risking. He's risking his command. Morden tells him that, and he must know it's true. He's risking his command. He's got other bigger things going on. This whole conspiracy that he's a key player in the Clark Earth Dome conspiracy and all these things going on. He needs to be. I guess that shows something about his character, like you mentioned, Cam. So
yeah, he's like a bull in that regard. Maybe he is like a bulldog, or maybe he is a bulldog, kind of like a bulldog all the time. It's just it's just nothing else has really gotten him riled up before.
Yeah. I was going to say, at least on this issue, he is for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course he does what he has a picture of his wife, which is Melissa Gilbert, apparently.
Yes.
No, it is not.
I thought it was one of the Gilberts.
No. The picture that is shown is the original. You just gave away something. No, if you look at it carefully,
Wait, what?
Back,
we've seen his wife in the video.
Yeah. No. The one that is shown in the picture is the original actress. That was in the video. That was in the video. It's not Melissa Sue. It's not Melissa Sue Gilbert.
Okay.
In that picture that Morden's holding.
Okay.
In fact, I watched it today. So
I watched it. I watched it today. I couldn't quite make out the picture. I'm like, that doesn't look like Melissa Gilbert, but I couldn't. I wasn't. Is that the same one that was in the first time around? I'm trying to remember when his sister.
This is the last
was second episode, wasn't it?
This is the last. I didn't want to say it, and I was going to say it, but I said, let me hold back on him because he's going to give away to the actress that's going to be coming in for it. But no, this is the last time you see that original actress as far as Sheridan's wife.
Yeah. I think the commentary said they didn't have a photo handy of her.
Yeah, exactly.
So he went. He's like, yeah, maybe there's an alternate timeline that they went through, and his wife changed, something like that. He was throwing an off the cuff remark, but that. Yeah. So there's a prelude to something. But that his he said something about his real wife.
Yeah, well, no, the Bruce Bossleiter and Melissa Sue Gilbert are married, or did they separate? I think, but I know they were married at the time when
at the time
of the series was out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Did we miss any points?
If you go to Zahadum, you would die.
Let's see here.
Yeah, the very final scene.
The very final scene, where basically Sheridan
Oh
Because
yeah, the
They
price tag. Yeah,
yeah. He wants to learn to fight them.
yeah. Sheridan basically goes to Kosh and he says, I've let Morden go, but there's a price tag with that. I want you to teach me to fight them, to beat them, to stop them. And Kosh says, you will die.
If
And
you go to Zahadum, you will
you
die.
will die. And then he says, then I die, but I won't go down easily, and I won't go down alone. So he knows that he's not going to be and Kosh says, he says, will you teach me? Kosh says yes. So I think that was pretty important to know that Kosh is going to teach Sheridan their weaknesses and how to fight them, how to defeat them. So
All
he's,
right.
he's no longer he's no longer the training wheels are coming off, I guess, is what the way the feeling I got. He's like, okay, we're done with this. We're on to the next. We're ready to move on to actually figuring out how to defeat these people.
Well, remember what he's always said, that basically, the conversation he has, he says, how do you know you're the same Volon in that encounter suit?
That's true.
And he says, I've always been here.
Yeah.
He's like, and of course, what Sheridan says, never direct, I forgot how it went. It was like, never direct, always, missing something, missing the point to the situation and on that. And he says, yes. Back to it.
Yeah, and it was pointed out, the shadows always ask, "What do you want?" The Vorlons always ask, "Who are you?" And he hinted about something, two other questions, "Where are you going?" being one of them. So I don't know if we're gonna.
There's a lot more coming. Let's not
Yeah.
jump ahead. There's a lot more
Mhm.
coming. We're almost
But
at
yeah.
season 3.
So yeah, yeah, very interesting. I guess he said he wrote just under half. Straczynski did of the first season. He wrote half of the second season, all of the third and fourth, and all but one episode of the fifth season. So he's going to be like lead writer for.
Well, like I said, going into season 3, you're going to be seeing some other writers. Like I said, Adam Nimoy is coming in for 2 episodes on there, and then some other writers coming in. So
Adam Nimoy was the director, I think, not the writer.
I was listening as the writer for some reason on.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's co-writers, but there's clearly been episodes where Straczynski and I think Cam, you and I and Staub have come across those episodes and been like, yeah, this is definitely a weaker episode, or doesn't seem to, it kind of sticks out a little odd, the way it was done, So I think, and that usually had somebody else credited as the writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think I just did a quick count here. I think Straczynski wrote 15 of the 22 episodes of season 2.
Yeah, So but supposedly as we're moving into the next season and beyond, it's going to be almost he's going to be the one.
Yep.
So
and that's for the better.
Yeah.
Cam, I have to say I was wrong. You were right. It is director. I don't know where I saw writer for some reason.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Cool. And Jason had Adam Nimoy on, didn't he?
Yeah. Good episode. Check that
out.
out.
Was a great episode.
Final thoughts. Madman, then Nathan, Jeff.
Well, here is where we at. One of the most important episodes of this season. We now know where the shadows are from. We know that the Narn War is not going well for the Narns. Mr. Morton has a connection to Sheridan's wife because he was on the Icarus when it exploded. Supposedly he was outside. Supposedly he wasn't there. We don't know to that point. And of course, the other, as they say, elephant in the room, the Ministry of Peace and Night Watch. What's going on back home on Earth? Big questions, needing big answers. But of course, we have to wait as we get out of this season, in which we still have several more episodes left. I give this one a 10 out of 10 for this episode.
All right, Nathan.
I also give it a 10 out of 10, but that's just because of Veer. I mean, otherwise it'd be like a 9.5, a 9.4. But Veer just okay. Who am I kidding? It goes up to 11. But no, it's a very good. It's a very good episode because it defines the challenges, is it, or it defines the stakes, and it defines what the big major plot line is going to be, because how else are you going to respond to the space gods are coming back and they're going to kill each other or some kind of thing like that. It's kind of, you know, you can't ignore that. So it sets the stakes up for at least the next half season, maybe all of next season. We're not really sure yet. Um, Another thing is an apocrypha sort of thing that I want to bring up. If you want to know, there's a novel that tells you about what happened to Mr. Morden and Sheridan's wife, on for their journey to Zahadum. So if you can find that thing in a used bookstore, have at it.
I've been still looking for it.
All right, Jeff.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if I was ready to give it a 10. It's definitely right up there, pretty close to that. I actually have a note about the book on Icarus, that it was out there because that was also mentioned. As I said, I watched this episode 3 times. The first time I just watched it casually. Then I went back and I watched it a second time with the commentary, and then I watched it again tonight with the commentary. And while I was taking notes on trying to collect all my thoughts, this was definitely a full 3-page episode from my notes. For those of you that are keeping track, I know that's nobody. But whereas the last episode, I think I had one. This one was a full 3 pages. There is a lot of information on it, a lot of details. I mean, there's so many reveals. I still I know some people disagree, but I still think that there were 3 different groups of aliens, or beings that fought. Tiers is what I've called them. You have the original ones which left after 10,000 years ago, after that war, and then you had most of them that left after the 1,000 years ago. So now it's time again, to rally the troops and try and get all the worlds aligned. And of course, it became clear that what the Shadow is trying to do, by starting this conflict, they're keeping all the different races that would normally be fighting against them separate, keeping them occupied. And I think that's where we're going, even with the storyline on Earth. The Shadow is keeping humanity occupied and at odds with itself, to keep us out of being able to organize together with these groups. So, yeah, I was going to go 9.5, but okay, I'll do a 10. I'll give you a 10. What do you say, Cam? Am I being too generous with the 10, or you think I'm right on?
Well, I'm actually going to rate this a little bit lower. While I totally agree about the content, the revelations that came in this are massive, and so from that respect, I'd say it's a 10. But I'm not sure they were presented in the best way. I mean, it was a lot of exposition. You know, it was basically a conversation between Delenn and Sheridan, with Kosh kind of, being there and adding a little bit to it. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy. I mentioned the stuff about Sheridan, and I liked what it told us about his character, but I didn't really enjoy the scenes with him and Morden. They seemed kind of ham-fisted, and I don't know. I didn't like that necessarily. So I think, I mean, it's a good episode for sure. So I mean, I'm going to say it's more like an 8 in terms of presentation, even though some of the content is absolute gold. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm. I just, geez. You know what? I'm not going to go. I might stop going last now because Cam always says what I'm going to say. I was exactly thinking the same way. I was thinking an 8, and it was because, like I said, there's a lot of. I'm not judging it just on the amount of information revealed, though. I'm glad we're moving along and we're getting to that. Just on the presentation, I thought Sheridan's thing was a little bit overdone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just a little bit too much. I mean, I can accept it, but a little over the top with his scenes and him interrogating Morden. I would have preferred to see someone like Garibaldi doing it, with maybe Sheridan standing in the background and throwing in his 2 cents, because Sheridan's not an interrogator. Let the cops do that. But still, I mean, I was going to say 8 as well. 8's still my highest rating, I think, so far this season. So, overall, it is a good episode.
Like I said, I was leaning 9, 9.5. I was curious. Madman and Nathan. They're 10, 10. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
It's okay. There's no right answer.
Yeah, no.
There's never no right answer. Everybody has different.
Yeah.
I always take it to the scale level that, what you were saying, Snob, on there. I take, that he was a little bit over the top. I take it because it's 1990 scripting. For then, if you look at a lot, from the era that this is coming from, where everything from P10 and all the other were over the top at that point. I mean, even Hercules and Xena and a lot of the other shows on there, Forever Night, Silk Stockings.
Firefly,
every one of those shows had over the top characters on a constant basis. And it was written
could
in the
also
90s.
be my rating is I think it might also be, in my case, my rating is based on spoilers.
Yeah, well,
I'm not rating. I'm just.
Well, no, I know. Some of us are ahead, some of us are behind.
When I say over the top,
watched it 5 or 6 times.
When I say over the top, I'm speaking about the fact that the character, I think, is being a little too much. Like he's a little bit too, based on what we've seen of his character, what we know about him, he's a little bit too emotionally involved. He's a little bit too over, and I think he's a little, my reading of the character, he should be a little bit less than what he is. About a little more cautious.
It's a JMS trait. It's a JMS trait.
No, that's fine. It's the way he's written. It's just my own opinion.
I mean, if you ever see Sense 8, which was also written by him, I mean, he had some characters that were like way over the top on there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm judging it from based on what I've seen of the character so far. Like I'm not judging it like on But anyway,
but all this will be, like I said, this is another piece of the puzzle. Down the line, all this is going to start coming into play, and a better understanding of these characters will come forward as we go along.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, I was really leaning right around a 9, 9.5. I think it was good. It was a great episode, excellent episode. I don't know if it's the best thing that we're going to see. So that's why I was like, these two guys are both 10s. I was leaning a little lower, but kind of wanted to hear what Cam had to say first.
We're just hitting one point.
It all goes downhill from here.
Well, yeah, and really, do we all agree? It happens on occasion, but I do highly recommend. If you have the opportunity and have the DVD set with the commentary track, and you whether or not you have or have not watched this episode, I would watch it first if you haven't seen it regularly. Watch the story and pay attention, and then go back and listen to commentary because there's a lot of information, a lot of backstory information that kind of he just like mentions off the cuff, and he did obsess a lot. I mean, like throughout the whole episode, he was obsessing about nitpicky details that he would have done differently if he could have. If he could go back and fix it, as I said, alluded to before, the artist always, a piece of art is never done. The artist always wants to manipulate it. And we saw that with Lucas. I mean, clearly, Lucas went back and tried to fix quote unquote Star Wars, and some of it was for the better, and a lot of it wasn't. So,
All right. Okay, let's do it a trivia. Oh, one other thing I'll mention. I'll mention this. I happened to rewatch the Marvel Thor movie, and JMS has writing a story credit on it. That was interesting. All right. Anyway, let's do the trivia questions. Trivia questions for this episode. According to Delin, what happened to those on the Icarus who chose not to serve the shadows? I think we answered that. Finish this quote. If you go to Zahadum, blank, blank, blank. Who does McAfee work for? And for what org has McAfee come to recruit station personnel? We went over that. If Kosh were to be seen without his encounter suit, who would recognize him? I think we've answered pretty much all of those questions. So easy
Isn't
today.
3 and 4 Chinese bots?
Maybe.
And malware?
Not going to give it away.
I got a question. What name did you just give on that question?
What?
Who is is it Maccabee, you said?
He said McAfee, but I think it's Maccabee.
It's Maccabee.
Yeah.
Sorry to correct you.
Malware.
It's Maccabee. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Like the Maccabee, which is funny because that's one of the apocryphal books, the Maccabees, of the Bible. The slap, by the way, that Talia gave Bruce Box gave Sheridan, that was not a sound effect. That was the first take that was done. That was really how hard she hit him. And then they did more takes, but those didn't get used. They used the first one. So
all right.
He was torturing poor Bruce Box.
You could see it in his face because he was
shocked. That's probably why they went with that take. Yeah, because it was like, ow, you really hit me. And it was real. That sound, they did not. He's like, normally there'll be a whiff or a tap. Nope. That was a dead-on smack. And then he's like, okay, let's do it again. So.
All right. Madman, do you got anything to promote for your show?
Yeah, tomorrow, of course, actually is the season premiere of Otaku Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. We'll be discussing the Demon Slayer heading to 1 billion at the box office and how it will get there as it being approved in China for an October 8th release. And also next week, we got a great story. If you're familiar on who the Mitchell brothers are. The Mitchell brothers are the guys in the adult industry that created some of the most iconic films, including the great Marilyn Chambers in Behind the Green Door. They're getting a 4K release. Also, the entire library has been taken by another company. So we're going to be expecting a restoration of the entire Mitchell library.
Interesting.
All right. Jeff, did you have anything?
Oh, let's see. Picked up Superman at Walmart the other day, the new one. So it's not just on streaming; it's on Blu-ray. Haven't watched it yet. I've already seen the movie a couple of times in theaters, but I'm probably looking forward to watching that again. And I haven't posted anything new on my Ham Radio Rejects channel, but who knows? I might do some tabletop stuff on my other channel. Well, I'll let you know next week if we do.
Yeah, that's fine. Nathan, do you got anything?
No, I'm mostly private citizen. So Except if you want some humor, or at least stuff that sounded better in my head than other people's heads, go visit us on our other friendly channel, Sci-Fi for Me TV, where I will be trying to keep Jason Hunt on his toes by being his resident troll.
Right on, right on. I like to troll him.
And I dropped links to both of those already. Madman's
and
channel and
mention our Discord.
Oh yeah.
Mention our Discords, Jeff. I mean,
Right on.
I dropped the link earlier for the one. Let me drop.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me drop them.
Yeah,
both
we like to troll like Snugs likes to troll us.
Also, next week we got sword fighting on Babylon 5.
Well, that's cool.
Cam.
Top Lofty Lounge at on Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, which we will be talking about something to be determined.
That's correct. I got to come up with a topic to talk about. And next week on this show is knives, so I guess that's the sword fighting we're talking about. And Dean has asked to join us, so Dean's going to be our special guest. Dean's in the chat right now, I think. Still,
yeah, he just said great show. So
because he loves early mornings.
He loves 4 o'clock.
He's a nut, but we love him.
That's right on. All right, I think that's it. Coming out in the chat. Thanks to our guest hosts, Madman and Nathan, and of course our regular co-panelist, Death Angel Shadow. I guess I should thank Cam too, right? Thanks.
Meh.
Whatever.
Yes, thanks everybody.
And thanks a lot. We'll see you next week or on Sunday. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night now. Gonna have to raise the gain on the next recording. I might do one for Company Inquisitor.